So Deion Sanders has made what I think is a great hire. And you follow the coaching carousel a lot, and you should. The coordinator carousel can matter every bit as much. This is what did Brian Kelly in during his time at LSU. He mismatched the proper hiring of an offensive coordinator and a defensive coordinator. His second DC, Blake Baker, is still down there at LSU, will probably be a Power 4 head coach one day. But if he'd been hired or somebody of that caliber when they had Jaden Daniels, well, Brian Kelly might still be the head coach for Louisiana State. Alas, he is not. So Deion Sanders just had what I deem a classic pullback season. They were very reliant on Shedeur Sanders and Travis Hunter the year before. And when those guys went away, the weaknesses of Pat Shurmur as offensive coordinator got exposed. And the game planning wasn't correct. And the idea of what they were doing with quarterbacks wasn't very clear. I didn't like a lot about what happened on the Colorado offense. I love this hire. I would grade this as an A hire for the Buffs. And I'm going to talk about another one as well to wrap today's show. So Brennan Marion, for those who don't know, was just the head coach at Sacramento State. Before that, he was the OC under Barry Odom at UNLV, and he is the architect of the go-go offense. And at the very least, and I think this absolutely has some value to it specifically for Buffs fans, Brennan Marion's offense, and it is Brennan, not Brendan Marion, it is a fun watch. It is not like anything else. It is predicated on a lot of unique formations, personnel groupings, tempo, motion, and misdirection. It can be a lot to handle for sure, but hiring him now gives JuJu Lewis, who should be the Buffs starting quarterback for 2026 and beyond, a chance to really get in on the ground floor with how he wants to establish his offensive identity in Boulder going forward. The offense this year felt stale, inconsistent, flat. It lacked a lot of things. And look, personnel absolutely matters. And I don't think Colorado has elite personnel up front. Their offensive line was better this year. Still, that's a different conversation. We don't need to have that right now. A coordinator can overcome a lot of this sort of stuff. But the offensive line is something they have to improve upon. The offensive coordinator was a bigger need than that. And this is a great hire. Now, he might not be in Boulder forever. He might be someone, you look at his career path, he has been bouncing around from opportunity to opportunity. He's been at Texas and UNLV and Sac State, and they were going to go FBS. That didn't work out, so he becomes the OC at Colorado. The last OC at Colorado, not named Pat Shurmur, was Sean Lewis, who, by the way, I'm about to talk one of his assistants that just got a job promotion. Lewis is at San Diego State, just led the Aztecs to a 9-win season in his second campaign. So I think there's absolutely a path where Brennan Marion becomes a Power 4 head coach one day. But even if you're just getting him for 2 seasons, which I think would be the most likely outcome here, this is a good hire because you need life, you need juice for a side of the ball that has just had absolutely positively nothing. So the go-go offense is fun. If you have, just go watch some highlights. You don't need to find an all 22 breakdown. Here are the formations, and be like the guy in his It's Always Sunny at the board. Hey, you don't need to go crazy about it. Just go watch it and you'll go, oh, that looks like fun. Yeah, because it is. You have to have good quarterback play who has to understand all the different reads and options on every single play. That's going to be a lot for a young quarterback to handle. That's why I'm glad that JuJu Lewis got some action this year. I thought he should have seen a lot more. Once they decided they didn't want to go down the Caden Salter route, I didn't think that was handled properly from Deion Sanders and his staff. But I love this is an A hire to me. Brennan Marion, A hire as an offensive coordinator at Colorado. Can he get him back to being in the Big 12 championship discussions they were in 2023? Maybe not right away. But this is a guy who, while he was at UNLV, coordinated the Rebels to a conference championship game. 1 or 2, I believe. So I am all in on this hire, and I'm not the only one. Here's what Kevin Borbo of Locked On Buffs has to say.
Deion Sanders hiring Brennan Marion as his offensive coordinator was one of the biggest surprises yet smartest moves of the entire college football offseason, and it's barely just started. Brennan Marion is an offensive savant. He created the go-go offense, which is predicated on deception, running the football, and just pure craziness. And Colorado's offense was stale, stagnant, uninspired this entire past season. And I think Pat Shurmur really benefited from having Shador Sanders, Travis Hunter, and the other NFL wide receivers the year prior, and they kind of masked all of his flaws. But Brennan Marion, at UNLV, they averaged 36 points per game. They were one of the best rushing teams in the country, running for 251 yards per game. And he's also an elite recruiter. So Brennan Marion does everything that Colorado was bad at, essentially, right? Colorado hasn't had a 500-yard rusher in a season since 2021. Brennan Marion had 3 this past year at Sac State. Colorado hasn't really recruited well. Brennan Marion had the #1 class in the FCS, and he's already brought some of those Sac State recruits to Colorado that kind of were a big swing for the Hornets anyway. And so Brennan Marion, perfect hire for Deion Sanders, and could save Coach Prime's tenure in Boulder. I'm Kevin Borba, host of Locked On Buffs.
Creativity, explosiveness, and a run game. Now, that is my biggest question with this particular hire is, hey, Colorado hasn't run the ball at all. You heard the stat from Kevin that they have not run it at all. Is Brennan Marion the guy to fix that? You need a coordinator that can do it. You need the personnel. So Deion Sanders has to get to work. This is an A hire. Another A hire in the coordinator world. Rob Aurick is now the defensive coordinator at Nebraska. You talk about a fast riser that just made an immediate impact. This is another younger guy. He's not even 40 years old. I think Aurick's about 35 years old. He was the DC at San Diego State. My everydayers out there will know this name at least a little bit. It might jog some memories from this past year because as I discussed San Diego State, whether I was picking them in my best bets, which didn't end up going very well this season, but San Diego State was usually a good, worthy inclusion in there. Or whether I was talking about the Aztecs as, hey, they're kind of an outside shot to make the college football playoff at the Group of 5 level. They, of course, lost the Mountain West Championship game, or they would have had a chance. If they'd won that game, been 11-2, they mightn't have gotten in over a 12-1 James Madison because the Mountain West is a better league than the Sun Belt. But anyway, what he did at San Diego State, nothing short of remarkable. So, in 2024, he was on staff with Sean Lewis in their first year, and they had a pretty rough season. That was to be expected because they were in year 1 of a rebuild. Well, year 2 went exceptionally well. 9-3. It was on the back of their defense, which grew tremendously. They allowed just under 30 points per game in 2024. Now, if I tell you that a team improves significantly in their statistical output from one year to the next, and they were giving up close to 30 points per game. Think about what a good number would be. Think about whichever team you're a fan of. If your defense struggled and gave up 30 points a game and you hired a new defensive coordinator, what point per game number would you look at the next season and say, that's progress? Probably anything under 25, right? Anything under 25 is progress. Anything under 20, man, that'd be incredible. San Diego State gave up under 13 points per game this year. So now he goes to Nebraska. This is, again, an A hire to me. Because Nebraska's defense was not good enough this year. I don't think they were physical enough, and I think Nebraska can, hot take here, recruit a lot better than San Diego State. Maybe not relative to the rest of their conference, because Nebraska's trying to compete in their own conference with teams like Ohio State, Oregon, Penn State, USC, Michigan, Washington, the list goes on and on. But the ability for Nebraska to get quality personnel and have a defense that just felt in a number of ways was out of sorts this year and was a part of them going 7-5. The Dylan Raiola injury was a much bigger component of that. But even when he was there, I thought they would beat Michigan at home. You know why they didn't? They couldn't consistently get stops. And yeah, they need to be more physical as a football team. They also have to be better schematically. So early on in this coordinator cycle, these are two of the better hires that I have seen across the board that I think have a significant impact for those teams going into 2026. Will Nebraska be able to take a step forward? Well, Dana Holgorsen at OC, Rob Aurick at DC, man, I think you have got two good coordinators there. On the other side, as I was talking about with Colorado, can Brennan Marion get them there immediately? That might depend on what their personnel winds up looking like with the offensive line to see if they're able to run the ball as much as they want. But both these guys, really good hires. Appreciate everyone listening. I will see you next time. And until then, hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day.